I have used visioning for so many things, really in the last 20, 30 years of my life. But even if I think back to when I was a teenager and I wanted to be where palm trees were, and I would go to sleep thinking of palm trees in a pool. And I remember I ended up getting to Phoenix. That's a long story, but I remember floating in the pool, looking up at the palm trees and being like, oh my God, I made it. And I was living in the ghetto in Phoenix, let's be clear, like literally. And I was just like, that was the emotion. It was the feeling of it. Nothing could have been better. My beach house in Hawaii, you guys, I had on my vision board forever. I had Kolina Beach Villas. I had this check I wrote to myself in a picture looking out to the ocean. Well, I ended up managing a property that I ended up with my house right on the ocean, right? It wasn't the exact same thing as on my vision board, but I had my toes in the sand. So many things throughout my life have done this, and understanding the brain science I'm going to share with you today just makes me want to flex this muscle more and more and more. So without further ado, I want to dive in. And if you're new here, I'm Addie Beal. I am a future self guide. I've lost 120 pounds, built my business twice, had a regain of 80, losing 100 again, down about 30 so far. So it's very much a weight loss business journey for me. As I've done from the beginning, I share every game changer I have along the way, what's really working and happening in my life. I dug deep into visualization because it's been such a game changer for me. So I want to share some takeaways from this book with you guys today that we read, Visualize by Maya Raichoora. Think, feel, and perform like the top 1%, because I'm all about learning the things, doing them, putting them into practice. So I'll share with you at the end today, if you want to do it with me, opportunity to do so. But meanwhile, I want to share my 10 big takeaways with you from this book. I am in process of running a workshop next week, and I thought, oh my God, this stuff is so good. I also have a video that is being edited right now that will be out this week that I'm going to share with you 3 different ways I use visioning every day to create the life of my dreams and like reprogram my brains. Let me share with you my big takeaways from this book. And of course, little stories as we go, as we do. So the first one is brain fitness. Okay. And this is just like we think about for our bodies and lifting weights. As we get stronger and we lift heavier weights, the muscle actually tears apart and rebuilds itself. And Maya is saying that with visualization, the same thing happens. We get older and we have these beliefs that are hardwired into our brains, these pathways between our neurotransmitters, between the connection in our brain, become really solid. And one of the ways we can start to reprogram it is to exercise it. So I'm going to put brain fitness. So because your brain struggles to tell the difference between what is real and what is in your mind, when you mentally rehearse something, nearly identical pathways activate in your brain. So that's very exciting. And this is a muscle we can all start flexing. So I like that thought of when I'm doing my visioning, I'm getting those muscle reps in. So that was the first one. The second big one that jumped out at me was activating this RAS system. I didn't realize our brains actually did this. I really just thought this was the woo. RAS for the second one. So what happens with the RAS, this is like the brown car, red car, whatever color car you want to use it. I've heard it said many different ways. Like it's like you don't think about pregnant women until you're pregnant, and then you see pregnant women everywhere, right? It's the same with the car. You like don't even think about red cars. You want a red car, all of a sudden you're seeing them everywhere. This reticular activating system in our brain is a collection of brain areas that decide what information gets brought into it. So it's constantly scanning the field to bring you what is important to you. So number 2, that's a big one. And that'll come in later when we talk about manifesting too. The third one is that we already are visioning, you guys. Whether you realize it or not, we do it every single day. The problem is, if we're left unchecked, our brain is already disposed to want to go to the negative, right? So it's imagining worst case scenarios and what are we going to worry about and what I'm going to stress about and all of the things we don't want to create in our lives. Our brain is predispositioned to also think that way. Think how that is wiring our brains and setting us up, right? I love she has this Einstein quote she shares in here about imagination is more important than knowing, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination encircles the world. Simply put, knowledge is what is, but imagination is what can be, and your brain is the creative engine. And I love this. Start to wonder again. Like, I can't tell you how many times a week I write the word wonder. It is one of those words that starts to open up infinite possibilities for us. Like, no one thought the iPhone was possible. AI? No one would have ever thought that was coming into our worlds like 100 years ago. They couldn't even imagine that, right? Think about what has not even been imagined and allow yourself to release and let go. I think this is one of those things that as I coach more and more women and we do a lot of future self work guided visualizations, that it's harder to let go of some of the negative thoughts and thinking and get beyond that, right? This is really powerful work. Another example of us already visioning is like if I said, hey, picture an Oreo, we can probably all see an Oreo, like get a vision of an Oreo. If you can't see the actual thing, you have an essence, you can describe it, you can like, you know what an Oreo looks like, right? And that's a perfect example of how we are visioning every single day. We already are is number 3. And remember, this is a muscle. I meet a lot of women that feel like they can't see anything, that they can't vision. It's a very small percent of the population that can't visually see images. You can get better at it and you can improve. So practice. I want you to leave by the time we're at number 10 that you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to start visioning. No shit. So the fourth thing on the list, and these aren't necessarily in order of critical mass to me. These are just in a random order. But the shift to having a positive relationship with your thoughts. And I'm quoting the book here. She talks about Dr. Price Pritchett was on this podcast and he was talking about the studies unequivocally say that positive thinking is important, but being able to reduce negative thinking is what makes the most difference in your mindset and your over fulfillment. I love this. And then she talks about Sadhguru, Indian spirituality teacher, and he talks about refraining from naming thoughts positive and negative. And I really try to implement this in my own life so much. Like I'll try catching myself if I say, oh, that was a good thing or a bad thing or something like that, that it's just a neutral thing. It's how I'm thinking about it that makes it like that. Number 4 is not going to think all the positive things, but reducing negative thinking. And how do we do that? By using these tools, right? Reduce negative. And this is big, like with women on a weight loss journey, the negative self-talk, because we know thoughts create feelings, create actions. Knowing that mindset work, if we're constantly thinking, I'm always going to be fat my whole life, I'm just fat cow. I mean, you guys, you would not believe the shit women tell themselves in their heads. So instead of feeling like you're gaslighting yourself, walking around saying affirmations all day that you don't believe, how do you start to switch and find bridge thoughts to now interrupt that? And visualization can be so powerful for this too. Number 5. This is not gonna like write this any better because like this stuff is just part of like the Me First guide of the planner and of all the stuff I've created because this stuff changed the game for me on my journey becoming an entrepreneur, losing 120 pounds. These were all skills that were like tied in with it somehow. Understanding our feelings and emotional awareness. So the first step is to get that awareness that you're having an emotion, and then you have the intelligence to name the emotion. Oh, I can see I'm angry right now. And then you have have the ability to process it and address it. And this is something I realized that I'm not doing on this new path. I'm creating my badass CEO that's showing up and building my business and losing 100 pounds at the same time. And where they meet at the crossroads is my CEO alter ego was taken over a little bit more, and I wasn't processing the emotion I need to process. Instead, I was going to an old default and eating and not losing weight as much as I would want to. I'm still down 30 pounds. I'm not sad about that, but I want it to keep moving. And I know this is one of the, I'm not even going to say last skill, you guys, because all I know from being on this journey is that every time I think I'm going to arrive, there's just like another landscape ahead, right? I'll just put emotional triad. And then we're aware, identify, process. And one of the ways we can amplify this processing and emotional awareness, really all of these, is in creative visualization. And we'll briefly go over the 5 different types of visualization she identifies. We're bringing that emotion in, like, what am I thinking? How am I feeling? So you could also use that to like kind of backtrack into how you want to rewire yourself. And then we see these emotions and we can visualize ourselves processing the emotion too. Really powerful stuff. The 6th concept she talks about, I'm going to call mind flex. Okay. We already talked about, let's say we have all these negative thoughts and our RAS system is activated and we're just bringing all these negative thoughts to us more and more. Just like if you believe you're good at something, the universe will bring you more of what you're good at because you're thinking you're good at it. You're collecting the evidence of that. So we want to collect the evidence of stuff we're good at, but our brain is also collecting all the bullshit you're thinking and saying about yourself. The good news is we can flex it. We can change it. We can start to see, we're in awareness. We can start to see the negative self-talk, the self-deprecating stuff, start to ask, how is it sabotaging us? How is it affecting our daily lives? And what can we do about it? And then we can use visualization to cultivate self-belief, to start to flex our muscle, to believe something different and something new. We can like start to tear that mind muscle apart, the old belief. And every time we step and we repeat into this new belief we want to have without gaslighting yourself about it, right? As we step into this new belief, the more and more we show up for that. Every time I deny the toddler the candy bar, right? Every time I deny my brain that reward in a way that I'm not white knuckling and out of panic, but I'm out of a future self vision of mine. Every time I deny that, I'm flexing my muscle for the person I want to become. I actually practice that, right? I'll see myself walking by it. It doesn't even matter. You could actually visualize these things. And I love this. The number one reason you aren't achieving your goal is because your mind isn't wired for the goal. And learning how to vision helps you wire your mind for the goal. It helps you change your brain even to start to show up for it when we flex this muscle. I'm going to share with you the 5 different techniques. Okay, there's 5 different visualization processes she talks about. Okay, and number 7 is 5 types, right? I'm just going to briefly touch on them for you guys. And then again, I'll show you in the other video how I use it. And I'm also going to drop you guys a link for a creative visualization that I use for some future self work. So if you want to try it out with me guiding you, I usually tend to do my future self visioning very guided and prompted because I have found that a lot of women that come into this work at this stage in our lives, we haven't been flexing that muscle. So the outcome visualization is seeing this clear image of what it looks like seeing the end of the movie. Process is rehearsing a process or a task, seeing yourself swim the laps or do the speech, like seeing yourself in the process of doing it. Creative is we use this to create emotion, make it tangible, like bring something into existence. So when I'm helping someone create their perfect future day and we've been living in Groundhog's Day for 30 years and can't yet imagine it, it, that's what creative visualization will do for you, especially if you let yourself go. And then negative visualization, I actually use every day to see my obstacles and how I'm going to move through them. Explorative visualization. This is good for problem solving, brainstorming, boosting creativity, generating and evaluating ideas, as well as problem solving. Those are the 5 different types, just as a quick overview. It's a really good book, you guys. She does have visualizations in here that like you can practice. This part I found really interesting, and this is kind of 8 and 8.5 because you guys know. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm a meditation junkie. I used to like be really like shove it down everyone's throat because this is what like really moved the needle for me. And as I've been through 8 years of teaching and coaching and guiding, I now know there's so many different layers to us changing and creating our futures and based on what you want your life to look like. And not that everyone doesn't benefit from meditation, they do, but maybe you need to learn how to even sit still, like how to even show up for yourself first so that when you learn to meditate, you actually sit still and do it, right? Let's talk about meditation really quick though. Meditation and visualization. She talks about earlier in the book about the brain being like a city and your thoughts, your beliefs are like the roadways and your thoughts are the cars on the road and the buildings are your experiences along the way. And what meditation does is it slows your brain enough that you come into awareness that you even have these thoughts. Like all of a sudden you can see all these thoughts on the roadway. And if you've ever tried to meditate, you understand, you think, oh, I can't meditate because I have 60 million thoughts. Well, of course, yes, you do. And even when you meditate, they're going on, right? Like, and it's okay. You just see them and let them go. So meditation is a deconstructive technique. So it's like slowing it. So you step into that awareness where visualization is actually helping you build. It's building new neural pathways, new roads, new thoughts into the scene of your brain, right? I kind of like that vision. So it can be a good thing to do if we're coming out of meditation to do a visualization right after, right? Because meditation has slowed all the thoughts down, started to loosen up those roadways a little bit, and you head into your visualization, like creating and building from there. So I loved that. And then also talking about manifestation, because I love some woo. A manifestation, like I shared with you, doing the future self visioning and outcome visioning, right? This is used a lot for manifestation because it helps you get clear about what you want. And then what happens? The RES is activated. And then this is where we say, oh, synchronicities and things start to come in alignment. Your brain is actually being activated to start to see these things. So it brings a little bit of science into this woo. Listen, I feel like I've manifested a lot of shit in my day. And it's so powerful to know, hey, if I just see it in my brain and create it, the universe is designed to bring it in. And so is my brain to bring it so I can make it a reality. And I feel like this is also the same for the creative visualization, where we're starting to imagine something we couldn't even imagine having created. And then all of a sudden things start to appear for us, right? And we're like, whoa, look at that. Oh. And it's always one of those, you're not going to believe this shit, you guys, right? Like all the time. So as we're setting a goal and as we're going into visualizing what we want out of it, that's important, right? That's the what. Like, what do you even want? What do you desire? So many of us haven't even like really gotten specific about what that means to us. Like if I even say, well, I desire $1 million. What does $1 million mean to me? And figuring out if what you want is really what you want and not what other people have told us we should want. Perfect example of this is the white picket fence, getting married, all of this stuff. While I've had amazing experiences with that, I think we were raised that, you go off to college, you get married, you have 2 kids, you get the car, you get the house, and happiness is at this end of this picket fence. And then we go and do all of these things that society tells us this is the path. But like we go through this because we're told that this is the path we should take. And we get there and we're like, well, wait a second. happy wasn't there, right? Like it's sold as this bill. So deciding what is it you really want? What is lighting your fire? What do you think your soul is called to do? And like getting still, increasing that space for awareness and allowing yourself to even hear and then ask why. She references another book in here, and this is important enough to share with you guys. The book Start with Why. Simon Sinek explains we have two parts in our brain: the limbic side, responsible for human behaviors, feelings, value-based, and the neocortex, responsible for objective and rational thoughts. The aim is to align both of these areas. So, and they even give a weight loss example here for you guys. So, if you're trying to lose weight, your rational brain knows that going to the gym or eating healthy is the right thing. But the limbic brain focuses on what feels good. So, and what's that quick, fast reward? And it's going to want to prioritize eating the pizza and watching TV on the sofa, right? So, when you give the voice to your why, to your goals, the two systems come in harmony. And then she goes into asking the 4 to 5 whys. I thought that was interesting to know, like if you define your why, it helps marry those two systems in the brain. Big takeaway. And then, of course, who do you need to become to achieve it? And this was me being an identity-based coach. That was like right up my alley. This is like everything I do is who do I need to become? Who do you need to become to have that outcome, right? How is it different than we are now? So figuring that out, and then we figure out a visualization, like, is she more confident? Is she being seen? Like, and then we start to practice that. And we flex that brain muscle. And I wanted to end with this because I think it's important when we go to try something new, like brain fitness, like flexing our mind muscle, what to expect. Especially when I was teaching meditation, I noticed this, you guys, because there's times I meditate and I'll come out and tell everybody like, oh my God, my soul's on fire. But not every time I sit down and am I feeling like that, right? Envisioning is very similar. So sometimes when you engage, particularly in an outcome visualization, creative visualization, where we're really getting that emotion and feeling it, like you're going to get that surge of motivation, empowerment, and hope, right? Like that just like starts to radiate out. But just don't expect to feel it intense every time. I practice this every morning, getting and feeling that emotion, because I do believe the more I'm in that emotional frequency, the sooner I'm bringing that end goal to me when I can be in that frequency more and more. She also says in here, you guys will hear from me about this all the time, like let go of the house. As soon as the house start to enter your vision, especially a creative or an outcome visualization, it can keep you from embracing the full vision, your full, what is it I desire from your heart. What I mean about staying out of the house is if you see like this, I'm traveling the world, I'm an adventurer, and then my brain goes, well, you don't have money for that. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do plane tickets? What if you're not feeling good? Like that's the house getting in your visualization. So I thought that was a great point that she brought that up. If you have a hard time connecting with your vision, to ask yourself if it's really the goal you want. Is this really what you desire? And I see this in our weight loss community. Everyone thinks they come in for the weight loss, and then they'll get working on the identity-based portion. They're like, I don't even give a shit about the 20 pounds anymore. I want my cabin in the woods so I can write. You know, it's amazing how often that will happen. And then what happens is we start shifting into that vision of what we want and what it looks like. And of course, we see ourselves as our healthiest, highest self. And that's just like a side effect of our vision, right? This vision to create this life of our dreams, this body just becomes also part of that whole dream and that whole vision. And we start to bring other things into the spectrum to make it happen. Number 10, don't overthink, release expectations. So I'm cracking up, you guys, because somehow I thought I finished that podcast where I said, and number 10 is releasing expectations and not overthinking. And then I didn't friggin' finish it. I'm back, but you can't make this shit up. I record this whole podcast about these top 10 things. And then I get in a little bit of hermit mode. If you know human design, this is like where I go into hibernation and then great genius ideas come to me, right? And then I'm ready to come out and share it with the world. Well, I was was in hibernation, working through all this self-doubt, all this crap coming up for me. And I just went back to the things that I know work for me, my visioning and meditation and creating space to listen and just opening up my heart, mind, and soul to listen. This morning, when I woke up, my whole news feed just led me from one creator to another that I follow about the woo aspect of this. And I was just like cracking up. And they were literally like Jamie C. I follow her. She's a big money mindset coach. She's literally on the podcast talking about the RAS, about the Reticular Activating System, the thing in your brain that helps the red cars, like how we're programming our brain to bring into our world. Then this other guy comes in my feed and he's talking about the exact opposite, about how the vision is already within you and we shouldn't be trying to force visioning. And after doing all this, I'm like over here being like, well, that's bullshit because I'm going to train my brain, right? I am going to make this happen. But I listened to him a little bit more, and what he's saying, I do agree with. And this is the part I agree in, and what I wanted to share with you guys is that when I experience in meditation, when I create that stillness and that space in my life, which is everything I've worked toward creating and try to be conscious with myself, is not to consume so much and be present and be and experience life in this world as I'm meant to and be in that vibration and all of this magical woo shit, right? And also, I'm a big action taker. And what do I want that to look like? And he was saying that every circumstance, every situation already exists. It's already there. So the issue isn't to force a creation or a visualization. It's to let it unfold for you. And then you step into that timeline. It's like when you do Dr. Joe's work, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and you're talking about creating from that quantum realm and that frequency, that there's already a thought, there's already a place where we are that already, right? And I'm like, yes. And so my experience with this I'm going to use meditation, because when I would go meditate, all of a sudden, like solutions just come to me. Like ideas will just come that I feel like I never would have had I not gone to meditate. Whether that is because I was really clear about what I want and a desired outcome I want, and then it starts to be brought into my reality, or it's me hopping timelines, right? Like however you want to look at it. But I also think biologically, we can't ignore the brain science with it. So one of the things I love to do, and we're going to experience in the visioning workshop this weekend, is we are going to open ourselves up, allow the vision to come. I do some prompting, like I was sharing with you guys, to help women start to dream again, because we just haven't for so long, but also leaving that space for you to see whatever you want to see. And everyone that comes out of these workshops, when we do like alter ego work or future self visioning, where we're stepping beyond our current reality, everyone has a different view, even with prompting. We don't all wake up to the same view. We don't all have the same experience we want. Creating that space in these workshops is the idea that it's going to create the space for you to figure out what you want and how to practice it, so that when you create space and ideas and synchronicities, your RAS system's activated, all those synchronicities start to appear and start to be part of it. And as we create more and more space in our lives and don't just cram our calendars, but we create space to be present with ourselves more and more, we just amplify that outcome, right? And this is why it's always been like the less I do, the more I achieve. Like this happened at corporate America when I took a step back and I said, what do I just really love to do at this job? And this wasn't this was corporate Addy, equity days, all of this. What do I really love about what I do? And how can I do more of that and less of that? And my brain was like, oh no, you have to do all these horrible things that are required of you at the job, right? And I was like, what if I just live over here? And I just lived over where the people were, and then solutions started coming for this other shit, like stuff I didn't want to get bogged down in that wasn't my zone of genius. Speaking of which, you guys, we've got Lexi editing videos now. So Mini Slayer is on the payroll, and she did her first video edit about this visioning and how I use it with the planner. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm linking it here, or in the comments below, I'll drop a link for you. And it's such a fun video. I think she did a really good job editing, and it's short and sweet. It's 12 minutes. It shows you how I use this every day to basically get my head out of my ass and keep moving forward to my goal. But anyhow, I just like that whole thing came this morning from just me allowing and creating space and hearing these other things. And it moved into major shifts with how I'm perceiving what I want to put in the world with the Me First Guide and the process, and how I help other people navigate this space between we have so much shit coming at us, and how do we hear this thing? We all know we're meant for more, but how do we start to uncover it? How do we start to listen and identify and do things like practicing visioning and bringing it more into us, understanding brain science and like whatever the frick creates it, right? Who cares? Like when you're seeing me have a retreat in Scotland that you're at next year, you're going to know what it came from. Doing all of this stuff with you guys. That's it. I just had to have a little something to wrap the podcast up with. I hope I see you at the workshop if you're watching this real time, or anytime. Just hop in, whatever I'm doing, man, because it's all the same ride and I'm not stopping. So hop on. Until next week, Slayer out.